When RM's secret lyrics are leaked to the media, Jungkook poses as a traitor. But who is the real mastermind? An exception from the past is revealed. You leaked it, didn't you? The words cut through the soundproofed studio like a blade, sharper than any beat reverberating through the speakers. RM stood with his chest heaving, eyes bloodshot, his trembling hand holding a torn lyric sheet. The title at the top was still visible, Still With You, Requiem Ver, a song that had never left his personal drive, except it had, and only one other person had ever seen it. Jungkook didn't move. Sitting on the edge of the studio couch, his hands balled into fists on his knees, he kept his head down, as if the silence would somehow shield him from the weight of RM's fury. Hyung, I don't. RM's voice cracked like glass. You were the only one I trusted. The studio fell into a suffocating stillness, and then a phone vibrated. The screen lit up with breaking headlines. The leak had gone viral, and no one saw it coming. Least of all Jungkook. What began as a quiet moment of artistic vulnerability turned into a media frenzy. The lyrics weren't just personal. They were a confession of loss, of grief, of a love buried in silence. RM had never shared them with the world, never planned to, except with Jungkook, and now the world had heard them. Without consent, without context, just raw, bleeding words on a screen. The betrayal was deep, almost surgical, and the wound it left behind was already beginning to fester. Jungkook didn't fight the accusation, not because he was guilty, but because something inside him said he had to carry this. That sometimes the truth could hurt more than the lie. 2 nights later, rain slashed across the windows of the HYB building, tracing crooked lines across the glass like veins of a larger truth waiting to be uncovered. Suga sat alone in the security room, staring at the CCTV screen. He had questions. The timeline didn't make sense. Jungkook's silence didn't make sense. So he started digging. The log showed an unusual login, 3:28 a.m., the day before the leak. Studio access from an unregistered ID. The footage was grainy, but the silhouette was unmistakable, tall, slender, moving with a hesitance that betrayed familiarity. Then the voice. Just because he saved me doesn't mean I owe him my life forever. Suga froze. The voice wasn't in the system's database, but he knew it. Quiet, almost too composed. The kind of voice that made you look over your shoulder even when no one was there to IT was Lee Junseo that a young producer RM had taken under his wing 2 years ago when Junseo was spiraling into depression. RM had found him after a suicide attempt, pulled him out of the dark, and gave him a place among them. And now, he had turned that gift into a weapon. Jungkook wasn't just a singer or the youngest of the group. He was a vault of secrets, a perfectionist to the point of self-destruction. Raised by silence, scarred by abandonment, trust was sacred to him, so rare, so delicate, that when RM gave it to him, it felt like something holy that he didn't defend himself because he couldn't. Because telling the truth meant burning someone RM once saved. And maybe, just maybe, part of Jungkook believed he deserved the pain. That carrying it was his own way of staying loyal. The fans didn't know this. The media didn't care. Rumors spread like gasoline. Hashtags flared across platforms. Hashtag JK Traitor. Hashtag RM deserved better. Brands began backing out of contracts. Every smile he gave in public now cracked at the edges, brittle and ghost-like. Only one person still believed in him. Min Yoongi at RM didn't sleep for nights. The pain of betrayal had merged with guilt. Had he trusted too easily? Or not enough? The studio became a battlefield of memories. Every time he stepped inside, he saw Jungkook's face, not as the accused, but as the boy he watched grow. The boy he once said was his golden magne. Now, RM couldn't look him in the eyes, but everything changed that night. Suga knocked on RM's door just past 3 a.m., a flash drive in his hand. No words, just a nod. RM plugged it into his laptop and watched the voice, the figure, the betrayal, Lee Junseo, and then something else out of clip, just 5 seconds long. Jungkook, alone in the studio the morning of the leak, standing in front of the computer, listening to the track. staring at the screen for a long, long time, then closing the file without touching anything. Suga leaned against the wall, arms crossed. He didn't do it. RM turned slowly. His expression cracked like old porcelain. Then why didn't he say anything? Suga shrugged. Maybe because he loves you more than you think. The next day, RM called Jungkook and he wasn't angry this time. Just broken. Why didn't you just tell me? RM asked, barely more than a whisper. I would have believed you. Jungkook looked up, and for the first time, there was no fear in his eyes. Just quiet resolve. Because I knew it would hurt more if you knew who really did it. And RM understood. Too late. Suga paced outside the studio, phone to his ear. You said you owed him your life. Now's the time to pay it back. A pause, then a voice on the other end, barely a whisper. You know this could destroy everything, right? And the screen cuts to black. The night Junseo returned to the studio, the hallway lights flickered, just for a moment, as if the building itself hesitated to let him in a one saw him enter. No alarms were triggered, and no words were spoken. Just the soft hiss of an elevator closing behind him, and the quiet hum of a man with a smile that no longer reached his eyes 3 hours earlier. Jungkook sat alone on the rooftop of HYB, wind slapping against his hoodie, his phone buzzing unanswered on the bench beside him. He hadn't slept in days. The city lights looked like memories he couldn't touch, beautiful, distant, already fading. Then a notification popped up. Unknown, he knows. Suga found the footage. I'm sorry. Jungkook stared at the message, not with surprise, but with a strange calmness, like he'd been waiting for this moment to arrive. And now that he had no idea what to do. RM hadn't spoken to him since that brief conversation in the studio. Not really. Not as a young. Not as a leader. Just as a man trying to process that someone he saved had just twisted a knife between his ribs and someone else had taken the fall for it. But even with the truth in hand, there was hesitation. What do you do when exposing the traitor means exposing the wound? What if shining light on it only made everything darker? Suga was the only one who didn't flinch. Junseo, he muttered into his phone. Come here. Now. Junseo hesitated. I told you, I didn't mean, said now. The confrontation wasn't loud. That was the disturbing part. Junseo walked into the studio with a calm so cold, it fogged the glass as he passed. RM stood near the mixing board, his back turned, head down. Suga sat on the couch, arms crossed. Jungkook stood in the corner, silent. I assume you saw the footage, Junseo said, casually, as if talking about spilled coffee. RM still didn't turn around. What? A pause. Junseo exhaled, ran a hand through his hair. Because you saved me, and then forgot I existed. Suga scoffed. So, this is about revenge? Junseo's voice tightened, like piano wire being pulled taut. I gave everything to this label. I shadowed your sessions, studied your rhythms. I even helped on his solo project. He nodded toward Jungkook. But you never looked at me the way you looked at him. Jungkook flinched. This wasn't about the lyrics. This was about the attention, the legacy. I gave you a future, RM said, voice raw. You gave me a leash, Junseo snapped. And Jungkook, he was always the one you trusted, the one you loved. Silence fell like snow, cold, suffocating, and then RM turned. Get out. Junseo's footsteps echoed down the corridor long after he left. No one spoke, not until the door clicked shut and the room felt empty again. RM looked at Jungkook. Why didn't you fight back? Jungkook stared at the floor. Because I used to be him. And that's when everything cracked open. The silence wasn't shame. It was empathy. Jungkook saw himself in Junseo, the broken boy who just wanted to be seen. The only difference was someone gave Jungkook a reason to stay. But not everyone was saved. Not everyone wanted to be. The damage, however, had already been done. The media didn't care about redemption arcs. Fans had taken sides. Death threats flooded Jungkook's inbox. People he thought were friends no longer replied. Even now, with the truth known behind closed doors, RM hesitated to go public. He's unstable, RM said. If we expose him now, he'll spiral, and it'll be on us. You mean on you, Suga corrected, deadpan. RM swallowed. I don't know if I can live with that blood on my hands. Jungkook stood up. I can. Late that night, Jungkook sent a message. To Junseo subject. One last track, let's finish what you started. Come to the old studio. Alone. The location he chose wasn't random. It was the underground recording booth, abandoned since their trainee days. The walls still had marker scribbles and dreams too big for their voices. Jungkook stood inside, waiting, not as an idol, not even as a victim, but as a mirror. Junseo arrived, eyes hollow. What is this? A trap? No, Jungkook handed him a mic. It's your moment. Say what you need to say. Junseo laughed bitterly. You think this fixes anything? No, Jungkook said quietly. But maybe it saves something. The track played. Not a beat. Just a simple piano loop. The same one RM had written that night. He almost gave up. Junseo stared at the mic. Then, almost involuntarily, he began to speak. Not sing. Just speak about pain, envy, fear. About watching the people you admire fly while you drown in your own breath. About wanting to be someone, even if that meant becoming someone you hated. The recording ended in silence. Jungkook saved the file under one word: closure. Later that night, Suga sat beside RM on the rooftop. No words, just city noise and wind. I think he saved him, RM said eventually. Suga nodded. But he paid for it with his name. And what do we do now? Suga lit a cigarette. Whatever comes next, it's his choice. As the episode fades to black, we see Jungkook staring at the moon from the old studio window, the recording still echoing in the background. His voice, barely a whisper. Even shadows need somewhere to fall. The recording wasn't meant to see the light of day, but it did. A 30-second clip, raw, emotional, and gutting, was uploaded anonymously at 3:06 a.m., just hours after Jungkook hit save on a file he promised no one would hear. And now it was everywhere. Junseo's voice cracked through timelines and headlines. You only ever saw me when I was breaking, never when I was trying. Within hours, fans pieced together the audio. Theories exploded. Many guessed it was a demo. Others claimed it was an AI-generated fake. A few, more observant, noticed something deeper. The pain in the voice was real. And it wasn't Jungkook's. RM stormed into the HYB control room, his phone in hand, face pale. Jungkook was already there, waiting. You told me it was private, RM said, not shouting but worse, disappointed. I didn't leak it. Then who did? Suga walked in, holding the hard drive. There's only one person who had access besides him. A pause. A breath. RM's voice dropped. Me. The implication hit like a slap. Somewhere along the chain, maybe a backup, maybe a sync to his personal cloud, RM had accidentally triggered the very leak he'd tried to prevent. Karma. Or irony. Maybe both. Junseo vanished, gone without a trace, his socials wiped, his apartment empty. No calls answered. Nothing but silence, the same kind he'd once drowned in. Jungkook tried not to care. But part of him did, because deep down he still understood what it felt like to disappear and hope no one came looking, just to see who actually would. But the world didn't stay quiet. The leak triggered something unexpected. Instead of outrage, it sparked empathy. For Junseo, for RM, and, slowly, for Jungkook. People began asking different questions. Why did Jungkook stay silent? What was he protecting? Why is no one talking about the producer in the background? Even the media, starved for a new angle, started turning their lens inward. Then another twist at his second leak. This time, a video to CCTV footage. Blurry but unmistakable. Junseo. The night of the original breach. Breaking into the studio. Downloading the lyric file. And one more thing. Copying a folder labeled JK_2023_unreleased. It wasn't just RM's lyrics he took, he had Jungkook's too. The betrayal cut deeper now. What Jungkook thought he'd been protecting had already been stolen, and no one knew what Junseo planned to do with it. Flashback. 2022 to Jungkook found Junseo in the practice room late one night, collapsed, exhausted, eyes rimmed red. He didn't say anything, just sat next to him, offered water, stayed. That was the night Junseo whispered, I don't think I'll make it here. And Jungkook had replied, Then lean on me until you can stand. And now, Junseo had used that same shoulder as a launch pad for his own pain. Back in the present, the agency debated legal action. RM hesitated. Suga pushed. Jungkook said nothing until the boardroom went silent, and he finally spoke. Let him release the songs. Everyone stared. He already took them. Let him put them out. Let the world hear what it sounds like when you steal someone's voice. Why? RM asked, confused. Because that's how karma works, Jungkook said softly. Let him burn it all. And when the ashes settle, only the truth will remain. 1 week later, Junseo's surprise single dropped under an anonymous alias. It topped the charts within hours. Critics called it soulful, haunting, a voice that sounds like it's breaking mid-air. But it didn't take long before fans started comparing the tone, the phrasing. The pain.it was Jungkook. Every line, every syllable, just slightly altered, like someone wearing his skin. The backlash hit fast. Hashtag Justice for JK trended worldwide. The fandom turned. Even industry insiders started whispering. He plagiarized emotion. The fallout was brutal. Junseo resurfaced with an apology, but not for what people expected. He didn't apologize for stealing, he apologized for not being enough. And that's when Jungkook did something no one saw coming. He posted a video. Just him in a dimly lit room with a single line, "Forgiveness is heavier than betrayal, but I still choose to carry it." The camera fades on Jungkook closing the lid of his laptop. Outside, the city is silent, as if holding its breath, but there's a knock on the door. When he opens it, RM stands there. And this time, he says nothing, that he just pulls Jungkook into a hug. The track appeared out of nowhere and no promo. Notice, no name, just a midnight drop titled Untitled/4.04, uploaded to Jungkook's official channel. But it wasn't on any schedule. No one from the label claimed it. No one knew how it got there. The song was raw, minimal, just a guitar loop, and Jungkook's voice, low, fragile, half-whispered like he was singing through a memory instead of mic, but the shock came not from the melody. It was in the metadata. Lee Junseo // final mix. RM called him immediately. Is this a prank? Jungkook was already in his car, driving toward the old studio. No, he said. This is his way of saying goodbye. Inside the studio, he found it, a flash drive on the desk, wrapped in masking tape, one line written on it. I never wanted your voice. I wanted your strength. And below that, this is yours. All of it. The drive contained 12 tracks, none released. All demos Jungkook had abandoned, unfinished because he didn't think they were enough. But Junseo had finished them. Not manipulated. Not claimed. Just completed. With care, there was no theft this time. Only tribute. Flashback. Junseo, 2023. He'd stay behind in the studio late one night after hearing Jungkook's quiet confession to his sound engineer. Some days, I don't feel like a person. I just feel like noise people forgot how to dance to. That was when Junseo knew Jungkook wasn't untouchable. He was human, and maybe that terrified him more than anything. Now, in the present, Jungkook sat alone, headphones on, listening to the final track that, in no words, just breath, piano, and then his own voice, stitched into a harmony Junseo had created from multiple takes, like piecing together a broken soul note by note, and buried deep in the mix, a voice that wasn't his Junseo's, whispering, almost lost. If you're hearing this, it means I couldn't say it out loud. I am sorry, not just for what I did, but for what I wanted to become. 3 days later, Jungkook made a decision that he released the album, Together, Untitled, a voice we both built. No names, no credits, no blame, just music. The response was overwhelming. Not just praise, but silence. The kind people hold when they're moved, not manipulated. Jungkook didn't go on interviews. He didn't explain, because some things weren't meant to be understood, only felt. Behind the scenes, RM watched the healing happen in real time. The group wasn't whole again, but it was honest, and that was enough. That I end the final scene. Jungkook walks into the studio, plugs in his mic, and says softly, for the first time, "This voice is mine again." The war didn't end with forgiveness, that IT just changed weapons. Have you seen this? Suga's voice was low, unreadable, as he dropped a tablet in front of Jungkook. Jungkook looked down. It was a trailer. The Lost Files, behind Jungkook's hidden album, coming soon from redacted label. Someone had taken the leaked songs, the whispers, the footage, and was repackaging the pain into a documentary. Unauthorized, unapproved, unapologetic. Even worse, it wasn't just about the music. It was about Junseo, private footage, studio clips, unrealized audio, framed like a scandal, like a downfall. Jungkook scrolled to the bottom. Narrated by Lee Junseo's former producer, someone who once tried to sign Junseo, someone who wanted to profit off his name, dead or not. I can stop this, RM said, voice hard. We'll sue. Strike them down before they get past promo. But Jungkook didn't answer, because a part of him wasn't surprised. He'd felt it coming. The moment he gave the world silence, someone would try to fill it with noise. That night, he visited the old studio again. The walls still smelled of dust and pine. It was cold, but peaceful. That he opened the drive Junseo left. Not the tracks this time, but a folder he hadn't dared to touch. Voice notes, don't listen unless you have to. Inside were timestamp recordings. Fragmented, unfinished, personal. Junseo talking to himself, arguing, crying, laughing, planning the album before he leaked the lyrics. In one, he said, I want to matter. Not like him, not famous, just remembered by someone. And in another, if I die tomorrow, I hope he knows this music saved me, even if I stole it. Jungkook sat for hours listening until dawn broke across the windows. Then he made a call. Press conference. 3 p.m. The room was tense. Fans waited. Reporters held their breath. Everyone expected an attack, but Jungkook just stepped up, wearing a simple hoodie. No makeup, no styling, just his voice. I know there's a documentary coming out, he said calmly. And I know it's going to say a lot of things. He paused. And I'm not going to stop it. Murmurs rippled across the room. Because Junseo was a complicated person, and so was I. And what we built was messy and painful and real. So let them show it. But let me say this too, on record. He looked up. No one owns pain. No one owns healing. But I own my voice. And from this day on, no one else speaks for it but me. Silence. Then one flashbulb. Then another. Then another. But Jungkook was already walking off stage. That night, on his private channel, he dropped a new track. Echoes they tried to sell. No chorus. No beat drop. Just a loop of his real laugh, warped and layered with whispers of Junseo's demo vocals, twisting into something beautiful. And at the very end, this isn't revenge. This is resistance. In the final shot, Jungkook walks through a crowd of fans. No bodyguards, no cameras, just passing by unseen. One fan quietly slips a letter into his hoodie pocket. Later, alone in his apartment, he opens it. Thank you for letting it hurt. That's how I knew it was real. He folds it, smiles. Not fully, but enough. What if closure isn't something you get, but something you give? The documentary aired at midnight. By 12:07 a.m. It had already become the most talked about media drop of the year, but none of the watchers expected what was waiting in the final minutes. 1 week earlier, the producers had contacted HYB, demanding exclusive access to archive materials. When denied, they switched tactics. Someone, somewhere, had given them Junseo's personal vault, a forgotten drive, untouched even by Jungkook, and on it was a folder titled simply, For Him. If I don't come back. Inside, a video, one Junseo recorded weeks before everything fell apart. Back to present. The screen faded from credits to static. Then slowly, grainy footage appeared. Junseo sitting on the floor of the studio, hoodie up, eyes hollow but honest. If this is playing, I guess I finally disappeared for real. He pauses, laughs a little. This isn't a suicide letter. Not that dramatic. I just think maybe I needed to vanish to finally be seen. He holds up a lyric sheet. RM's original lyrics, the ones that were leaked. Yeah, I stole these. but not to hurt anyone. I just wanted someone to know I understood them, that I understood him. He drops the page, looks into the camera, but I didn't expect him to take the blame. Jungkook, I don't know why you stayed quiet. Maybe because you knew what I was going through. Maybe because you hated yourself the way I did. He looks down, swallows. But I need people to know you didn't protect me. You saved me. And if I made you hate yourself for it, I am sorry. The screen goes black, just white text. No heroes. No villains. Just two broken voices trying to make a song out of silence. The world stopped. Socials exploded. But Jungkook didn't watch it live. He was at the old studio, headphones on, listening to Junseo's last mix again, over and over. The one where Junseo layered both of their voices so closely, you couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. RM called. You okay? Jungkook didn't answer right away. Then, yeah, for the first time in a while. The next morning, a quiet movement began. Hashtag just two voices, a fan project. No están wars. No blam. Just people sharing stories of the songs that saved them. Songs that hurt. Songs they weren't ready to write, but needed to hear. HYB offered to remaster the collaborative album. Jungkook refused. I wanted to stay how he left it. Imperfect. Honest. Instead, he did something else, that he opened the studio. To the public. Not for show. Not for content. For anyone who needed it. A free program. Ghost Notes. Where struggling artists could come, record, be heard. No contracts, no press. Just voices. In the final scene, Jungkook returns to the rooftop where this all began. The same wind. The same skyline. Only this time, he's not alone. Suga joins him. Then Jimin. Then RM. One by one, the others appear, silent, carrying small speakers in their hands. Jungkook looks confused. Then they start to play something. Not one of his songs. One of Junseo's. A rough demo. One no one ever released. A little off-key. Full of static, but beautiful. They listen in silence. No tears. No words. Just the sky. Just sound. When the track ends, Jungkook exhales. We never got to finish his story. RM shrugs. Then maybe we help someone else start theirs. Final text on screen. Not all wounds close. Some stay open just enough to let light in. This is not an end. This is an echo of the end.